Okay, it's being live streamed now.
We are live, Sandhya. So we'll start in the next 1 minute. You can share it. George and Colonel Srini, I'm sharing the link on the chat box here. In case you want to share it to your pages, you can do that from there.
Shall we start?
We are. Sandhya, I can't see you on camera. That's right.
Oh. On its.
Yes, you're there. Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
Good.
we're ready. Sure. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our panel discussion today by BSEI. BSEI is the platform that brings the 5 pillars of education together, and panel discussions are a key part of our BSEI journey. Today, we have a panel discussion on careers in services. The discussion is moderated by our co-admin of Bangalore Schools and director of BSEI, Manoj Telakat. Manoj is the CEO of Flexi Partners, an international HR firm with offices in India, UAE, Oman, and Qatar, focused on leadership hiring. He's the founder of the School of Public Speaking and has trained more than 850 participants in the last 2 years. 25 years of professional experience in various industries like banking, telecom, FMCG, recruitment, and training. He's worked in organizations like Globalast Limited, IDEA, Reliance, and ICICI Bank. Manoj was selected as the only trainer from India to conduct trainings at the World Congress of JCI held at Kanazawa, Japan, attended by over 10,000 delegates from over 124 countries, and at the ASPAC convention in Malaysia. A director of BSEI, an online community of over 63,000 parents, bringing educational institutions, educators, parents, students, and service providers under one umbrella. He's also the chapter president of BNI Billionaires and is also the regional trainer of BNI Bangalore, the world's largest networking organization. Over to you, Manoj, to introduce the panelists.
Thank you so much, Sandhya, for that, and a very warm welcome to all of you who have joined us today live on Zoom, as well as on the various Facebook pages and groups that this discussion is being streamed on. I have a very special panel today, someone who has been a very close friend of mine for many years, and we also have another person who most of us look up to in terms of absolute reverence, in terms of what he has been doing. So let me take this opportunity to start off with my good friend. He was commissioned to the Corps of Engineers, where he rendered active military service for more than 5 years. He's an alumnus of IIM Lucknow, which he completed after his career in the army. He has been a part of organizations like JSW, Cargill India, Novatium, before he joined the Korean conglomerate Doosan. He was the head of Indian operations and also has had a stint as a deputy general manager for Asia Pacific and emerging markets based out of their headquarters in Seoul, South Korea. He worked with Ooredoo in Oman before pursuing his lifelong passion as an organic agriculturist while completing his courses as a life coach with the ICF. He then co-founded PeopleSense, an HR advisory firm where he renders strategic HR and business management advisory consulting to startups and SME. He is joining us from Dubai, where he's on a project assignment supporting a startup in their HR operations. A very warm welcome, good friend, Captain George Varghese.
Thank you, Manoj. Thank you so much for the kind words.
The next gentleman is an IIM Kozhikode alumni, is a certified career analyst and the founder of LifeCompass2020, a career advisory firm. He is an armed forces veteran and an HR professional with over 37 years of experience in matters related to operations, HR management, and training. He was with the Reliance Group in various capacities for more than 14 years. He founded LifeCompass2020 to help children and professionals with career advisory services. In the last 2 years, he has provided career counseling to more than 100 students and professionals. He is a certified teacher of Vedic mathematics, an avid cyclist, an ultra marathon runner, and he recently completed the 24-hour run in Bangalore Ultra. A very warm welcome to Lieutenant Colonel V Srinivasan.
Thank you, Manoj. This makes me feel great. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. And let me start off with the first question. I want to start with Colonel Srinivasan here. And I have the same question for George also, so you get some time to prepare for that question, George. Why choose Army? Why did you choose Army as a career option, Colonel?
One of the most difficult questions I've answered over so many years. I had no one in the Army, no one in 7 generations in the family, Manoj, who went to Army. It is just a friend in college who said, Srini, chal yaar, CDS dete hain. Let us give the Combined Defense Services exam. I just followed him. And believe me, as we keep clearing, I landed up going with him. He is an engineer's officer, so even George would know. He's a serving lieutenant general now. And it's a proud privilege that I can talk to him on a one-to-one even today. I think General Anil Puri is the only reason why I went to the Army. Yeah.
Okay. So it was not something that was a dream or anything. It just happened.
Today I realize that, had I probably gone through career counseling, somebody would have said, no, probably you would have been better somewhere else and all. But I can't ever say, not even one day of my life. Every day I miss the time that I spent, the 22 years I spent it.
Fantastic. Okay. So George, the same question to you. Why Army?
Yeah, so it was a very different reason than Colonel Srinivasan. So I'm a 2nd generation military officer. My father served in the Airforce for 32 years. So ever since I was been born and brought up on Airforce campuses, studied across 5 different KVs across the country. And naturally, so each school that you go, there is a healthy blend of people from all the 3 forces. And this was something that I grew up seeing. So there was never an alternate option for me. The dream, right from the time one started, creating an aspiration of what to do from a career perspective, was always to join the armed forces. And that's how we ended up in NCC as well, and everything that we did together, Manoj.
Okay, so that's a long time back. So you have somebody who's gone through an armed forces life, all through his life, and somebody who's ended up in Army because a friend got him in. So very mixed, interesting panel there. Thank you so much for that part. So let's start with the first part of the panel discussion, the first question, which is the most, I think the most intriguing question for quite a lot of people, because when I speak to children, and Colonel will agree with me, because we work very closely with children there, and we also run a community where this discussion keeps coming up. Quite a lot of children are interested in serving. Quite a lot of children, or the parents, are also inclined towards serving. But I, for some reason, find it a little bit, I would say, the information is not available there. It is not available outside for a man to kind of just go and search and find out all the information at one place. So I think this is where this panel discussion is going to help them in terms of kind of look at what are the things that they need to do, how do we prepare for it, etc. So the first question is, when do you start preparing for a life in the armed forces? George, at what age do you start for it? Because you've been somebody who's been preparing for it for a long time. So when do you start for it? As a child, is there a right age that the child starts preparing, a right grade when he starts? When do you start the preparation for it?
So Manoj, I'd like to answer it this way. So the decision can be taken a tad later in life, maybe once, depending on what stream of entry that you want to go into. For instance, if you want to get into a NDA entry, then at least by your 11th, 12th, you should be starting preparing, because the NDA entrance exam is very competitive, and thereafter the SSB as well. If you're planning to get into a direct entry post graduation, then maybe you have a little bit more time. But the other aspect that you say, when should you start preparing? Now, if you look at the holistic, evaluation that they do, that is something that takes a tad longer to prepare. So I would say, in terms of creating an interest in becoming an avid reader, learning more about the current affairs and the state of things, various tests with respect to the aptitude test, IQ test, etc. A whole lot of people sometimes don't make it to the first time because they're just not familiar with the format of the test, right? And why I say start preparing from maybe at least 9th on, because irrespective of whether they finally choose a career in the army, or if they want to go and appear for NEET or any other competitive exam, get into management, these things are prevalent there as well, and they will always set them off or give them a competitive advantage if they are well versed with these methodologies of a competition, right? So I think around 9th, 10th is an apt time for somebody to start preparing for, which will always hold them in good stead, irrespective of whether to choose to take up a career in the army or otherwise. That would be my suggestion. Yeah.
So that's the first part answered. 9th standard is the right time to start. Do they get any benefit by starting a little early, George, or would you say it is too early to start at that point?
I would say it is a tad too early. Like, say somebody is generally interested in, say, as I said, general awareness, current affairs, world affairs, etc., etc. It's good, but I think it's around 14, 15 when you have a bit more semblance with respect to retaining what you are going through, logically understanding the sequence of stuff that you are going through, and then having it processed, as I said, not only for army or armed forces, but any competitive exam that you go. And that is about the age that you start preparing for from an aspirational perspective with respect to what you want to do in life, right? There could be slight deviations here and there, but then that's typically the age where the parents are also, trying to focus in terms of, okay, next year is 10, so what stream to take, which stream to pursue, STEM, no STEM, right? Things like that. So from my perspective, around 9th standard is a right time. Let the kids enjoy before that.
Okay. So no pressure in terms of going in early there. Okay. Colonel, George was talking about various entry points. So is that something that you want to address, or if George can take it, either of you, in terms of what are those entry points that we're talking about of getting in? So one, George said, if you're writing it in 12th standard NDA. So what are the entry points that are there for somebody getting into the services?
I think George covered a lot of good stuff. I think the first thing is about choosing to join the armed forces itself is what I would tell parents. Do you really want the choice to be taken? Because that is where the whole thing starts, right? The mental frame of parents and the children to accept the fact that they want to join the army. 9th, 10th, because they are able to do assessments for themselves. They are able to study for themselves. Entrance exam generally take care. If you have 10th class equivalent mathematics and science, you will be able to clear the entrance exams. You need to have that basics of 10th class math, science, English, and GK. So one is the mental preparation. You could do in 12th. Prepare while you are in 12th for the entrance exam, so that the moment you finish, you join the August batch of that year, so that you don't lose even 2 months after you study. Every year, there are 2 times the UPSC conducts the NDA entrance examination, which is good for all the 3 services, Army, Navy, Air Force. But in case you are not able to choose at that time, you could choose what we call as the direct entry or the short service commission through combined defense services examination, which is done after the graduation. So during the graduation, you could choose the subjects. Do you want to choose science, arts, maths, or commerce even? The point which comes is, for Air Force, you will still need physics and maths and Navy. But for Army, you don't need that. So even if you have taken a BA in your graduation, you could join the armed forces. There are other technical entry streams. I think George would be a much better person to say exactly how after 10+2 you can join the technical entry stream. After your engineering, you can join the the technical entry stream in the IMA. And so even if you're an engineer, you can join an army or join the army and become an engineer. George, I recommend you take that being an engineer also, if you want.
Got it. So I'm just refining that part, George. So let's look at these entry points that we were talking about. Colonel ran through it, but if you can just put us through what are the 2-3 entry points that we were talking about in terms of when do a child get in there, and then we can go in what are the preparations required for that also.
Right. So as Col V Srinivasan said, the first entry point is the NDA. The minimum qualification required is 12 standard, and you could be from any stream, arts, commerce, humanities, science, right? As Sir rightly said, for Air Force and Navy, it's mandatory to have physics and maths. Army doesn't have that. However, the technical services in the Army would still need a physics and maths background, right? Which are the Corps of Engineers, the signals, and the EME, right? Corps of Electrical and Mechanical Engineers. So that's the first entry. The second entry is the direct entry. So you have intakes going into IMA, Air Force Academy, Naval Academy, and Officers Training Academy, right? So all these 4 academies take direct entries. For the direct entry stream, for the basic qualification for that is graduation. In the short service and in the IMA, there are technical entry scheme also, as Col V Srinivasan rightly said. After you complete your engineering, you could apply. The only caveat is when you complete your engineering and apply, you don't have to write the CDS. It's a direct invitation for application, and you just have to attend the Service Selection Board interview, right? There's another entry after 10+2, which specifically for the technical branch. It's called the TES, Technical Engineering Services, Technical Entry Scheme. So you complete your 12th, join the Army, join as a cadet, go to the cadet training college in CME, College of Military Engineering, Pune, do 3 years of training there, and then you do 1 year of training in IMA, and then you get commissioned, right? There is another option for students who are doing their engineering to join in the final year of their engineering, which is called a university entry scheme, which again is by application. They don't have to write an examination. They apply on the invitations called and attend the SSB, and if they qualify, they get enrolled while they are in the final year of their engineering itself, and immediately post-engineering, they'll go into the training. So for the major course, these are the direct schemes of entry, right? Now, there are again branches wherein you could get into, for which separate applications are called for. For instance, the ATC in Air Force, the ATC in Navy, the Judge Advocate General's branch, which is the, if you need to be a law graduate for that. There is a Army Education Corps selection where qualified, professionals as teachers, they can get into and serve in the Education Corps. So these are other forms of entry at different points in time. For professionals who want to join, they could join in whenever applications are sought. The vacancies are actually very few, but the process is the same. You apply for the application, you are called for the interview, you still need to go through the same SSB, and then you can get in. Even medical aspirants who are interested in pursuing medicine at the same time, they want to serve in the Army too, or in the Air Force or Navy for that matter of fact. Armed Forces Medical College, AFMC, conducts a test every year, and which is basically a integral medical entrance exam. And based on the merit, they call for people for interviews. And again, they need to go through the SSB. Once they qualify the SSB, the medical thereafter, post the merit list, certain number of women and gentlemen are absorbed into the Armed Forces Medical College every year to serve in the medical corps of the Army, Navy, Air Force. So these are the various entry points.
So it is not just one, there are so many avenues in terms of entry there. So yes. One thing that I wanted to kind of understand. So you said when you're getting into an NDA, it's a 12 standard and then you enter there. but for the rest of them, you come in as a graduate. So what is the essential difference when you're entering as a 12th standard, 16, 17-year-old kid, and then you're going in as a graduate later? What is the difference in terms of career, or what is the difference in terms of the whole approach there?
Okay, see, in terms of career per se, I mean, I would say if you're asking, once you are commissioned and into the branch and service, what is the difference there? There's absolutely no difference in terms of roles and responsibility, duties, or the branches and the arms and services that you could go into. Absolutely no difference. NDA, so it's basically more like catch them young. So post 12, people who are very focused and just are very clear in terms of getting into the armed forces, they go through a 3-year basic military training in NDA, but they're also doing their graduation simultaneously. Okay, so they are throughout the 3-year curriculum, depending on the the stream that they come from, whether it's arts, math, science, humanities, they take up their respective streams, they take up their respective branches, and they are actually studying for their graduation at the same time doing the basic military training too. So in some parlance, you could say that, okay, you got them young, they're a bit more, agile and trained at the time they come to the IMA. And so what happens is when you come from the NDA batch, your training in IMA or in AFA or in Naval Academy is only for a period of 12 months. For a direct entry, the same period of training is actually 18 months, right? But once you are commissioned, it's basically the batch of commission, right? If somebody is, let's say, 104 regular course from IMA, irrespective of the stream that you would have come through, you all would be part of the same batch, right? Duties and responsibilities and appointments that you could land into and the opportunities to get into various regiment and arms would all be same. No differentiation there.
Okay. So interesting there. So I'm getting a question on the chat, and for the benefit of those who are attending here live as well as on the Facebook streams, if you have questions, please feel free to put it directly to me, and I'll try to take these questions to the panelists at the right point. So there is a question that has come up about what we are discussing now. So we are talking about entering into as engineers into that side also, George. So the question is, what are the options of entering there, or how do you prepare when you're in a final year BE? So can you brief about joining the defense services when I'm doing my final year Bachelor of Engineering? So
Manoj, could you just repeat that question? I didn't comprehend that.
So how do I join the armed forces while I am doing my final year of engineering? Okay,
so I'm not very sure how often do the advertisements come out, but the Army University Entry Scheme is basically for the students who are in the pre-final year, so which is the 3rd year, right? So when you are in your 3rd year of university, you could apply for when the applications are sought for, right? And as I said, there is no written exam per se, as far as I know. Things could have changed. I need to go back and check. Last I saw, there was an application called for the 2022 batch as well. So you attend the same process. You go through the SSB, and once you're qualified from the SSB, then you are deemed inside, and the final year of your engineering, you are already enrolled. And if I'm not wrong, I need to validate this. Pardon me, I am not very sure of this, but as far as I remember, there is some sort of a stipend that you get in the final year as well, right? And after your engineering, you straight away go into the academy for a year straight.
Okay, George, is there also an option that, yeah, I'm doing my engineering, but I don't necessarily need to go into that engineering side itself? Is my engineering also considered as a graduate entry?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So that's another option, unless you want to get into the engineering specific side.
Yeah,
right.
The other option is.
May I add?
There is a caveat here. I just add one more aspect. See, when you get into the forces as an engineer directly post the qualification of an engineering, something interesting happens. So when you join the technical stream as a qualified engineer from outside, on the date of commission, you get actually 2 years ante-date seniority. Okay, so if I were to explain what that means is, Manoj, let's say you are a regular graduate, let's say a BCom graduate, and I completed my engineering, and we both are doing the same course in the academy. I joined as a from the technical stream, as a technical entry scheme. And the day we get commissioned, right, I would be 2 years senior to you on paper. So my pay grade would be of 2 years up from the basic perspective. My promotions would actually be 2 years up because I have that 2 years antedate seniority. So somebody who's already a qualified tech engineer, I have not seen anybody who wouldn't want to take that route and want to join something else. But having said that, there are people like, from the Corps of Engineers too, who wanted to get into the special forces, the para-SFs, or who wanted to serve in the SAGs, and they have gone there, served there, and they have come back, right? And some have stayed there also. So it's open. So it is not a limiting factor that if you're an engineer that you have to go into the engineering stream. You could choose to go into any other stream, but these are the things to consider. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I wanted to add to what, because we had in our regiment, I am from the air defense, the anti-aircraft wing of the Indian Army. Now we deal with radars, missiles, and guns. Now we had engineering graduates who joined after that as a technical entry. They got the 2 years antedate seniority also, but they came to a supporting arm or a thing like this, where they served like any other officer. So while they could have gone to electrical and mechanical engineering because they had done electrical engineering, that officer chose to come to a fighting arm, if I may use. So these options are also available, but you have to volunteer. You have to say, I want to go. Otherwise, they take it that you are in the line for engineering streams only.
Okay.
This is what I wanted to add to what George has said.
Okay. So let me come back. There are questions coming up. We'll try to answer it as and when the right time comes up on that. So we said 9th standard is the right time to start, 10th standard, 11th, 12th. That's the 4 years. Then when you can actually prepare it for the first option that you get. So so what do you actually prepare for? One is definitely the academic side of it, which you help you in terms of that. What are the some tips and tricks that you can advise the children? Colonel, if you can just take that part, because I'm very sure you are also helping children in that part. So what are some of the tips and tricks in terms of what to prepare for? What are the things that they need to prepare for? Like you said, if you are looking at a Navy and Air Force, then you need to be clear in terms that you need to take science. Army doesn't insist on that. So what are some of those tips and tricks, Colonel?
Yeah. The way we prepare for our exams for our 10th, 11th, 12th, I think you need to prepare equally well for the entrance exams. How can you do it? There are a lot of online, now I've not even checked it, but there are a lot of online assessments which are there where you can say army tests, regular things like shiksha.com and things like that. There are books wherein the format of the assessment tests which are conducted by NDA are available in books. Paper, pen, you can sit at home, time yourself, and in 3 hours, whatever you can do. This is the first. First is do not lose out on your own studies is what I would advise. Just because I'm preparing for NDA, I shouldn't just keep trying the entrance exam papers. I have to be good in my 10th, 11th subjects too, because that will come in handy during. You have to upgrade your general knowledge skills, because that is one big ticket item which we do not do in our education system, but we need to start preparing for that. Now, there are a lot of training centers which are generally run by ex-service officers who have worked in the service selection boards as group testing officers. They help students prepare for the written exam also, as well as the SSB. Okay. So when they leave, they feel that there are people who really need that support. Nearly every city, tier 1, tier 2 cities also have good training centers. I've got 3 of my course mates still running centers in Pune and Bangalore and things like that, which I could, Chandigarh, for example. So then the other thing which I personally feel is preparing yourself physically and mentally. What happens while we are rattoing all the books? But what happens is suddenly we clear, and then we are supposed to go to the SSB within, say, 3 to 6 weeks, because so then we start going to the nearest park and start running. It is not that you need to be a marathon champion. Physically fit means there are certain physical tasks which are done there. At that time, you can't miss out because every little bit, and you would get to know mentally what all, as you start running physically, you start getting up early. Those things which we otherwise miss out start working for you there. The other thing, I would say, do some push-ups, do some pull-ups, go for a small 2-kilometer run. I would give you such kind of things to be mentally getting prepared for the whether we become good enough for the army will take care. The moment you enter army, physically and mentally they will make you fit. After that, you don't have to worry about that. The armed forces will take. Asthmatic kids, anyone with severe asthma or weak constitution, when I say digestive systems, I would recommend prepare yourself, because armed forces, I'm being that much upfront. It is not that they cannot go, but the physical strain and the way we move, drink water wherever we get, eat whatever we get. So those things may be one of the things which only you know. No assessments can ever find out. So you may need to think about joining the armed forces. Before you do that, then you could choose, instead of fighting arms, you could probably choose certain things. The only thing which I would tell all students, all parents, is that if you even have a chance to give the entrance exam, please tell the child to at least attempt the entrance examination. One, it gives you other options, another way of learning what the entrance exams are all about. It doesn't guarantee you joining the armed forces, right? Then you may get selected. Go to the SSB. I think that is the best 5-day psychometric assessment you can ever go through in your entire life. I promise you, nobody can strip you inside out mentally to understand who you are. But you can clear that. But still, it doesn't tell you that you got selected. Then there is a 3 to 5-day medical examination. Please go through that, which helps you know how fit you are in body and mind. After that, the merit list comes. Then you can still decide, I don't want to go. I promise you, but people stop attempting even the entrance examination, thinking, I think army is the first bullet is meant for me. I don't want to take it. That kind of worry should not be there. Yeah, that's why I said parents and children should be mentally prepared and then go whole hog. It's a walk.
Okay.
This is what I would say.
Got it. So you're saying one is the academic part of it. Second is the general knowledge part of it. And that is something that you need to keep on acquiring on a day-to-day basis. And from what George said, 9th standard is an ideal time to start off on that also. And then you also start preparing yourself a little bit physically, even if you don't end up being a marathon runner, but you need a bit of physical endurance to clear, if at all you get through those exams and reach that stage. So that's what I kind of understand at this point of time. Let me come back to one of the things that we discussed. George, Colonel started by saying that the parents and the children really need to decide if this is something that you want to do or not. And George also said the same thing. So how do I know as a student that I am actually cut off for a life in the armed forces? How do you know that?
Well, you attend the SSB, you will come to know.
Okay.
I think that is a litmus test.
Okay.
So as Kal was, articulating, since I am from the HR background too, I also did not know this when I attended the SSB per se. But, as on today, there are multiple formats of personality testing systems that are available, from Thomas profiling to MBTI, 16PF, blah, blah, blah. But none of these can give a complete picture of a human being, and nobody can, right? So they say that assessment centers are the most sophisticated form of evaluation of a human being as a whole, from his mental, emotional, psychological perspective, and also evaluating on certain specific competencies. And service selection boards are the finest assessment centers that exist in the world today, I can say, right? So coupled with a basic screening IQ intelligence test, then there's a thorough psychological test. There are group tasks, group discussions, individual tasks, individual discussions, lecture rates, your speaking capability, etc. Right? How confident are you in terms of articulating on something that you learned just a short while ago? Right? It's like an extempore speech. And all this put together along with the personal interview, and then the team comes together and then discusses about everything about that one particular candidate. And then there's a set bar. So SSB does not look into what is the available vacancies that particular year for a particular batch. They just look at he passes the litmus test or not. Passes, goes up. Doesn't pass, go down. They don't care. So sometimes you go to batches of SSB, there could be 10 or 12 who are selected, and more often none are selected, right? So if you are cut out or not, so I would say, as Sir was articulating, at least for the experience part of it, whether you make it or not, go there and go through that procedure. The people that you meet there and the experience that go through, that's a phenomenal experience, right? And if you clear the SSB, then you know that, okay, you are definitely a cut above the rest, right? From what 350 odd thousand students who take the CDS or NDA every year, about 5,000-10,000 attend SSBs, right? And a few hundreds are finally selected, right? So once the selection process is done, you still have a choice. You get a call letter, doesn't mean that somebody will come and pick you by the collar and take you to the academy. At that point too, it is your decision. You could choose to join, you could choose not to join, right? But going through that process, I think it gives you a very significant competitive advantage, both from a self-confidence perspective. As you said, simple question you asked, whether I'm cut out for it or not. So I think it's a blend of your mental makeup, your cognitive, physical, and psychological capabilities. If all these functions are working appropriately in a normal parlance, they are not looking for superhuman beings, right?
So I think that is what I was coming to, because one of the misconceptions when I have spoken to a lot of children is that they've already decided that this is not something for me. I will rather be a civilian for the rest of the life, because Army or Air Force or Navy is not cut off for me, because I look up to them and I see it from movies, I see it from all of that stuff. And somewhere down the line, that confidence is not there that this is something that is meant for me or anything. And like Colonel rightly said, one of the fears that most of the parents carry with them is that the moment you are there, you're forced to kind of carry a gun and go somewhere deep inside the Kashmir jungles and then start fighting, and there is a bullet waiting for you. I think those are misconceptions that and we were talking about it, George, earlier also, that your chances of probably getting injured while crossing a road is much more than that which would happen when you're in active service. And so that's one part of it. So I'm still getting a lot of questions in terms of the preparation part, and I saw something very interesting wherein somebody saying that what are your suggestions in terms of female aspirants? And that's something that has been a question, and I think a lot of things have changed over the last so many years. So how welcome is female aspirants into the services currently, and what are the options that they have?
Yeah, Manoj, I will take on, because I've had the real honor and pleasure of having worked with women officers in my regiment. The last officer before I retired was a lady officer who is now a lieutenant colonel and about to retire. Can you imagine? Then I had a workshop, an ordnance officer who was looking after all the technical equipment stuff for our workshop. Women officers are extremely strong. They have to be too, because they are going to be in a very in a minority. Let us be that frank. 99:1 maybe. Okay. However, they are respected in the army. They are really taken care of in the army, because Indian culture presently is looking after that. See, we do not have women soldiers as yet. We have got only women officers. And these women officers have to command men troops. Those are the things which need to be, when I said about mental preparation, are you willing to do that? It is not just about what uniform you're wearing, what rank you're wearing. You have to come out with everyone into the desert when you're going for firing, or traveling with us in a convoy day or night. You have to manage to, it is not the same way we think about in a city. It is
So
very
you're
different.
not treated any differently. You're treated at par.
At
So
par.
also the question that is coming up also, Colonel,
What is
just
the
to add on
aspirant?
to that, is at an entry level, is there any difference in terms of how you let a girl in and how you let a boy into any of these entry points that we were talking about? Are they all at par everywhere?
All at par. All at par. Yeah. The only thing
they,
is
they all go through the same exam. They all go through the same SSB. They go through the same thing.
Training.
Absolutely.
Even the training is same. So when the only caveat is, Manoj, as at this point in time, there are no women entry into the NDA. There are no women entry into the IMA, right? But women entry are there in OTA, that's the Short Service Commission, right? And when I did my training, there were batches of lady cadets who were going through the same training that we were doing right from the morning, from the PTN drill to the firing, race backs, BPT, everything. It's the same thing. So no differentiation.
George,
as far as you don't get any lineage because of your gender. It is all treated the same. So that part is answered there, Colonel and George. Second thing was
saying something. One second.
Yeah, sorry, George. Actually, the women have won all the court cases. Now they have become permanent commission. They can serve for all. NDA has opened it. I think the third course in the NDA for women aspirants has opened. Today in the paper, I saw a college or school which is preparing. So I think women are going to be not just at par. They are going to be great competition. We should not even think about it. I don't think we should be even talking about gender bias within the army. Yes, our culture needs to change starting at home. To be able to accept that it is possible. Women are much stronger. Actually, if you see outside, women are much stronger mentally as well as physically. Only they're, biologically, the way we are built may be different. Otherwise, we are.
So going back one step, George, we spoke about exams to get into the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So if somebody is looking at, say, Navy, is it very different from the Air Force exam or the Army exam, or is it one common exam that they all write? So if I've already made up my mind that I need to get into Air Force, what is it that I do differently from somebody who's looking at Army as an option?
The entrance exam are same, Manoj, whether it's NDA or CDS is the same exam. Only condition being, as I articulated earlier, for Air Force and Navy, a background with maths and physics either at 12th or at graduation level is mandatory, depending on what entry scheme you're going into. Right.
Okay.
So that is the only limitation.
You need That's only a difference, and then you get
tick. You need to tick that I want to go to Navy first, or Air Force second, and Army
you write
third.
The same exam. You write the same exam. I say I want to get into Air Force, and then you're pushed in there as long as you meet the criterion of the physics and math part also there. Okay, right. Interesting there. Okay, so there are more questions. I hope we have enough time to kind of answer all of them, because quite a lot of them are coming up. One question that has come up from Mr. Murali is that is academic performance of 11th or a 12th really a very, very important part there? Like,
it is not.
I'm not talking. It is not. So as long as you pass, it is okay. What if you flunk?
No, you cannot flunk.
You can't flunk. So you need to pass. You need to pass your 12th standard.
Manoj, the qualifying criteria for NDA is 12th pass.
12th pass.
For CDS is graduate. So somebody who is not passed is graduate is not a graduate. His qualification is 12th.
So the 11th standard marks and how much of marks that you've got in 11th or 12th is not a criterion for any of that stuff. What qualifies is that you need to qualify the 12th standard entry level exam, and then you need to qualify the other exams also. Am I right?
I am not very sure for NDA if there is a minimum requirement of 50% in maths and physics.
Yes, I think that is the only thing.
Yes.
We may want to recheck on that. 50%. 50%. It is not that 33%. There, Ujjwal has already answered. 50%.
So 50% is there. And for, I think, flying branch also, I think maths and physics, 50% is required.
Only the technical entry scheme, you need 70% in PCM. University entry scheme, which is engineering, for going into the engineering scheme stream after 10+2, you should have 70% marks. See, because that is going to be a lot of more studies. Most people think that army, you don't need to study. I promise you, you have enough and more books in the army. You have to study.
Okay. Okay. So that's one part of the so we spoke about various. I mean, George, one more question. You came from that. Does something like an NCC really help in you getting into an army or an Air Force?
It surely does. It surely does. So actually, one more entry that we probably did not talk about is actually the NCC entry. Those who have C certificates, at least B class, B grade, a C certificate with at least a B grading, they can also directly apply without having to go through a entrance exam. So there are NCC, when each batch that comes up, there are certain seats kept for NCC cadets, C certificate holders. They can get into the SSB interviews directly, give the SSB interviews, and subject to qualifying in the interview and the medical, they can also get into the academy. And once you are in the academy, especially from a cadet's life perspective, sir would be aware, unless you pass something that is called as a drill square test, DST, right? You have lot of gatings, means you can't keep a moosh, you can't go out of the academy on a liberty on a Sunday, none of those things. That is a basic qualification to get any sort of privilege as a cadet, right? I remember that me and a couple of other guys, we cleared our DST in the first attempt, right? Which was about 2.5 months after our training started, right? And of course, those who came from a non-military background or a complete civilian background to get the arm swinging right when they were walking, took some time for them, right? So, but
I'm a C certificate holder too.
Yes.
And this, I would exactly agree to what George has said. You know, you've stayed in a tent because you went to an NCC camp, you marched on a beat, you know how to wear a uniform because somebody is going to. So all that just gives you that slight edge over someone who has not done it when you are inside the academy. And then NCCC certificate, clearing the entrance exam itself is the first hurdle itself, isn't it? So clearing the NCCC, you've done your C certificate, it helps you cross the first hurdle without having. SSB, everyone goes through that gate.
Yeah. So George, we were talking about this earlier, and then one question has just come up in terms of the SSB part. And he's asking, do we have separate SSB for OTA and IMA when coming from CDS? Is that it? The question is there in the chat box also, if you want to just read through it once.
Read through. See, the thing is, I'm just trying to comprehend the question here. If the ask is about the SSB itself, it's not. Everybody goes through the same SSB pattern and the same SSB centers. So there are few SSB centers that we have in the country. Everybody goes through the same. Now the batches of the SSB, definitely yes. So the intake and the courses commencement periods are different, right? And though, like say, let's see, all three of us, we wrote CDS together, right? And Col Srinivasan has opted for Airforce. You have opted for Army, but from IMA, and I have opted for OTA batch. All of us will have different batches within the same SSB. So Col Srinivasan will probably be with all the Air Force aspirants who qualified for the AFA in the written test. They will be all treated together in one particular batch. That is for the ease of conduct and for the time of entry into the various academies. Right?
Minor difference, George.
Yeah.
After the CDS, the Army, Air Force, Navy batches are separated at the SSB. Air Force guys go to Mysore and Dehradun, while Army guys go to Bhopal, Allahabad, it's slipping my mind. Bhopal,
Bangalore.
Yeah, Bangalore. Yeah. There are three, and naval guys go. But that is the only. Now Kapurthala started. Somebody's added. Very right. So now what is happening is at that time, these people who are like OTA, Officers Training Academy for the Armed Forces, Army, that batch starts 3 months after the military academy batches. So the SSB also gets staggered, though they are going to be Armed Forces, Army officers, short service commission officers. Their SSB generally is held separately. Army batches will be held together, Air Force and naval batches, because for the Air Force Academy, there are certain additional tests which are not there for the Army. For example, the pilot aptitude battery test, which is a very separate equipment, which I went through it because I went for Army aviation. I was trying to fly helicopters, got grounded. So I still went to Dehradun, attended a second SSB equivalent when I was a captain, to clear that test. So there would be certain amount of difference, but the entrance exam, which is called a combined defense services exam, is the same. That's what the only thing.
So whichever way you go through it, you end up in the same exam. That's what is the ultimate test in terms of clearing it. So you have multiple entry points there, but you all end up at the same test, clear that SSB test, go into the medical, clear the medical, and that's when the merit list comes. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. I have a question here. Says if I've cleared my written and SSB for IMA, can I also get a chance to opt for OTA too? No. So this is what sir was saying. At the time when you actually write your exam, you have to give your preference in terms of IMA, Naval Academy, Air Force Academy, and OTA.
And OTA.
And OTA can only be the first or the last choice. It cannot be the second or third choice. And if you have opted for IMA and qualified for IMA, your call would automatically come from only for IMA. You cannot then say that I don't want to join IMA, I want to go for OTA. You'll have to probably go through another process of writing the exam, qualifying the SSB.
You'll have to redo the whole thing again as
well.
Yes.
So do you want to go for short service commission or permanent commission? That is the thing which is making a big difference. Do you want to serve for 20 years or you want to serve for 5 years plus extension? That is very clear. You have to tell me now. It's
not 5 years anymore. It is
not 5 years. 10 years, right? That's what. Do you want to do it now? Tell me now. Then I will decide where.
Even that choice is taken then. So you can't essentially run for 3 years and say that I want to opt for this. So you need, when you're entering, you need to tell that you are in short service or permanent commission. Correct?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get into one thing. So we've been speaking about the preparatory part of it, and I'm very sure there are more questions. We'll just see if you have more time towards the end of it. But there are a few more things that we want to kind of talk about, because I'm very sure parents are also here and they also want to know about certain things beyond just the entry part. Once you're entering in, how is life inside the services? What is it? So from your own personal experiences, how has it transformed you? What is life? Is it all that you're always covered up in paint and waiting in some border, or is there anything else beyond
this one? This one I want to take it before George, because there's so much of interesting stuff here. Okay. Manoj, I would like to tell you there are certain myths, unfounded worries, doubts which are there in our mind. One, I've already told you. Second is we are permanently at war. Wrong. You have to drink and dance every day. Wrong. There is a permanent partying going on. Wrong. You can grow your hair, jump with one AK-47 and roam around the countryside. Wrong. You are just normal, like in any other life. You have a lot of other things which I've read. Discipline, teamwork. You have to do a lot of administration. You have to do a lot of self-study, because internally you have to get promoted. You have to clear examinations. You are sent to courses of instruction for special needs which are very specific. I have to go do a missile course. I have to do a long and reach staff course. There are entrance exams inside the army to even qualify, compete amongst peers. One of the things which I saw, just because on the right top, I saw School of Public Speaking, I would like to tell you one important thing. What I learned in the army was this confidence, which starts right from the day you are in SSB. Public speaking. You have to do extempore speech. You have to give a speech. You have to manage a group discussion. All this is part of public speaking. It starts at SSB. You come to the military academy. You have to give orders when you are a troop commander, a platoon commander, to your own peers who are there. You're taking them out for a patrol. You have to stand up and give orders. You can't, write everything down. You have to prepare, and so that gives you the confidence. That gives you the merit list within the army. Once you are in the academy, once you are in the regiment, public speaking is every day you're doing to your Jawans, giving orders, running a Sainik Sammelan, in the party. Believe me, my first big test was suddenly in the party, they said, okay, start announcing for the party. There was an army commander sitting there. I'd never stood on a stage with a mic. But from that day onwards, you automatically start becoming the master of ceremonies. All these small things are built within the army life itself. So multicultural environment that we work on. Uh, with your troops from multiple states, you start picking up new languages. You start understanding how one kind of person, how a Jat works and how a Maratha works and how a Tambi works. A Tamil battalion, you can't going around giving galis, but probably in a Sikh battalion, if you don't give gali, they wonder what's happened to Saab. It's a very
multi-ethnic setup also.
So I think there are a lot of things that within the armed forces life, which you get to learn, which help us after army also, and in your personal life also. Yeah, I think
so you're essentially becoming a team leader at what, 21, 22 years? You're already having a team under you, right?
Yes, guaranteed team under you. I mean, everything for them. There is no HR in army, right? There is no HR in army. You are the administrator. You are the trainer. You are the one who manages their pay and allowances. You are the one who manages their training. You take them out for exercise. You party with them. You have to do everything with them. You have to live in a tent with them. What other way to learn to live life? I think, yeah. George, now if I've left anything, I'm sure you got some more good points to add. I'm very, very sure.
No, I'll just say, the metamorphosis, if I may term it that way, it starts right in the academy. So typically the day you land, all your ego, everything goes off and they completely shave you off, take your mustache off. And then when you look from yonder, everybody looks same, right? You can't make any difference, right? And the training is so intense and so well structured, Manoj, not only at a physical level, but from the academic perspective and also from the mental perspective, the mental robustness that actually gets driven in, right? I wouldn't deny there are often times you stop and wonder, what am I doing here? Why am I going through this rigmarole, right? Why don't I leave this and go and have a better life, right? I mean, is it worth doing it? You get to those points multiple times when the odds are against you, and that is when somebody will shout, when the going gets tough, the tough gets going, right? So one more step and one more beat, and it just goes on. And the camaraderie, so when you are running and you're tired and out, people don't leave you behind, they carry you. I remember, and it was the first term when we had the race back, it was a 25-kilometer race back, and one of my batchmates, he sort of, because of the exhaustion, dehydration, he sort of collapsed. So we had one person carrying his rifle, one person carrying his baggage, one person carrying his, water bottle, shoes and everything, and one fellow carrying him on his back. And his equipment is also, people are distributed within those 10 from my section, from within my platoon. So we're all completely distributed. We're all carrying additional load, and carrying one person and running is not easy. So we are doing it in bits and pieces. Somebody's carrying him for about 2 kilometers and a half or so, and then the other person is taking through. And post that, the bond that you make is phenomenal, right? So once you get through the training and you come out, right, there's a solid grit that comes in. That, well, I mean, I've gone through, tougher things in life.
I went in an underconfident young kid from college, imagining, okay, I told you, with no idea about what. But 6 months later, when I came back to Delhi, because I was born and brought up in Delhi, when I walked on the DTC bus, my confidence was totally different. You walk, people park.
I think metamorphosis is the right
100%. I couldn't have chosen a better word than that, ever.
Absolutely. Okay, George, the other thing that we typically, again, another myth, like what Colonel said, was more in terms of, we always keep hearing that it's a thankless job. It's a thankless job. You're doing it. It changes you as a person. You're doing a great service for the nation. You're doing a great service for the people. And that's one definite part of it. Beyond that, as an individual, how lucrative is this job in terms of the pay, in terms of the family life, in terms of the other perks that comes in? How lucrative is it? Is it only about patriotism and sacrifices, or is it also something beyond that?
No, Manoj, it is being progressively becoming better from that standpoint. The benefits, the comforts, the pay and allowances with the revised pay commission scale, it's pretty decent, right? It's pretty decent, and all the comfort and things that are at your convenience is something that is phenomenal. You have best of the world health facilities, right? Completely free. Accommodation, like in a place like Bangalore, in 2003, I was paying 220 rupees for the house that I was living in. You come there, right? So those kind of stuff, right? And besides that, the kind of environment that you get, the fraternity that you get, it's a very differential experience altogether. So the question is not about, is it a thankless job, or is only about patriotism or not? So as we articulated earlier, it's about the expectation. So if you have the right expectation and if you're aligned with that, and that is the value that you look for in it, right, then it is phenomenal. Having said that, some people probably don't make a great fit out there. So it's okay, right? So it's pretty much an individual choice, also collectively from a family's perspective, a family choice as well, with respect to how they blend in and gel in, right? I have not seen a more secular group of people from multiple backgrounds of the country staying together as one family, right? And that's a different experience altogether.
Yeah. The thing is, do I stand up to the flag and salute it every morning in the army? No, I'm telling you, no. We don't need the flag to believe that we are working for the Indian Armed Forces. Let us make that very clear. The thing is, like everyone else, I have chosen. Nobody invites you to the armed forces. Manoj, I want to make this very clear. Ours is one of the only voluntary armies in the world. You don't get conscripted like in various other armies. You chose. So you have to accept it. That is the first thing. But once you've chosen, you should know what are your aspirations. See, it looks great when I'm wearing my full medal, wearing a star, and there is no gate which doesn't open for me. I promise you, if I'm in uniform, there is no gate which is ever closed for me, ever. And people enjoy that particular thing throughout their life. Even now, if I write army in my vehicle, generally police also feels twice. They'll say Colonel Saab, or words to that effect. What I meant was that we chose. So we must be ready for certain things which are true in corporate life also. I have realized corporate people are working 14 hours a day, getting stressed out, isn't it? So what if you're working at night in an exercise in the armed forces? But you're not ever working alone. In corporate, you may work alone, but in the armed forces, you would never be alone. Your troops will be there. They will be digging trenches which are 23 feet by 15 feet by 3 feet in one night. A gun pit, I'm just telling you, in operations. You, as a troop commander, are walking. So what do you want? You say, I would also want to. You will try picking up a pickaxe. You will do 4 or 5 and your shoulders will start screaming. You continue. By then, suddenly one guy will come. You don't know where he came from. In the middle of the night, says, Saab, chai, so that you don't dig. He's made sure that you have got a hot cup of tea at 2:30 at night so that you don't dig, which he's otherwise supposed to be doing. When you have that, you don't sleep. Then you say, oh, I can crib, I didn't sleep for 24 hours. Yeah, that is one way of saying it. Or I say, yeah, I was with and that internal. You don't need to tell anyone. If you're looking for external validation, yeah, what thankless job you're doing. If somebody tells me, I'd probably not accept it at all. I think it's a very, very thankful. In the end, we get that without any, say, tum fauj mein ho yaar. How many of you have said, we're really proud of you? How many? So I think that is what I would say, wrong myths, but in this service, you get great, great benefits, certain things which you can't expect anywhere else.
Absolutely. Okay. So it's the point that we are trying to make is that, yes, it definitely is lucrative beyond the myths that are definitely there. And there is definitely a family life and other stuff.
Oh, yes.
What we call as in corporate parlors, what we call as work-life balance part also. I think that is that small sacrifices you do for a much larger gain is what I kind of think.
May I add one more? I'll give you one example so that you know what is lucrative or not lucrative. This is 1999. Kargil, everyone remembers.
Vijay.
Vijay.
Oh, Vijay, yeah.
I was moved overnight from Gopalpur on sea into the valley. Overnight. My wife with 2 small children, 6 and 4, were left behind in Orissa overnight. And During that time, a super cyclone also hit Gopalpur on sea. No light, no water for 12 days. I had no worries. The commandant of the Army Air Defense College's wife was visiting all officers. The Jawans, tankers filled with trees were removed. And from day one, they got water. Generators were put in houses wherever they could. Everything was taken care of. Now, you tell me, if I was in a normal house there, who would be there to support me? As a community, it's a community in itself. We look after ourselves. Somebody has got my back. Somebody has always got my back. Somebody has always got the back of my family also. The advantages, my children are multicultural adjusted. They can talk 2 or 3 languages. They are able to mingle with people. They have got public speaking skills right from when they are 4 years old, because they will go to the stage and start singing. They got the opportunity to do it. You know, the ladies are already, they have got a lot of welfare activities and other things by which they have to, support the Jawan's wives and other things. So they become more confident. When they come to us, they are civilians. Most of our wives are civilians. But by the time they leave armed forces, they are already well established in their mind. So all that also you can add.
Oh, well, I think that's a total package that you get. It is not just about one thing that you look at; it's a total package, and definitely, I can definitely see that in terms of what you see from somebody who's looking inside, from somebody who's looking inside the army and looking outside. The difference is definitely visible, and I can see that passion when both of you speak about that. So I think that's something interesting. Let me come to the last part of it, because we have run out of time in terms of, but it was pretty interesting and interactive, and I know there are still questions out there. What is life after the services? So George, I'll start with you.
So Manoj, if I were to tell you this, at the age of 34, when I got out of army when I was 29, and along my corporate ladder, at the age of 34, I used to sit on the management team where the next youngest guy was about 8 years older to me. Right. So I think the learning curve and the path, accelerated path that you get, purely because your learning curves are small, you adapt fast, you learn fast, and you already have that strategic vision and thinking because you've been doing it, right? I mean, every day in and day out, whenever you plan something, whenever you plan a project, an operation, you're planning it from end to end. So when you come into the corporate, the first thing that strikes you, okay, whatever business I'm working in, what is the business value chain? Why are we into this business? How do we make money? So when you get into those aspects, you're able to support and do your role much better. And that is acknowledged. That is acknowledged, right? So I would say that has given me a huge uplift in whatever I've done in the last 17 odd years, right? And I forever always hold, of course, the upbringing of my dad, but then the second is my upbringing in the army and what I went through, 100% credence to that for where I am today.
Came out much later.
Army life totally prepares you, and it's not an alien world. It prepares you to kind of start on day one, or
yeah. One of the things is, when you're not hesitating to try out anything, right? You wouldn't say no to anything, right? You're the dictionary of no. Okay, unless you really try it out, you wouldn't say this is not possible. Okay, let me try it, right? So that actually goes a long way vis-a-vis a whole lot of, the bracket of other people who ab initio say, oh, this is very difficult, or this can't be done per se, right?
Yeah.
So I think that is one significant aspect, right? So yes, it does prepare you very well. I was thinking what I was going to say when I joined Army, Manoj. The tagline at that point of time on the advertisement batches used to say, an officer for 5 years and a gentleman for life. Right. So some of those things that you inculcate being part of the fraternity, I get still complimented by either my peers or even ladies, I mean, you're a gentleman. Okay, this comes naturally to you. Right. I'll never put myself ahead of women, children, or younger people. Right. You'll always let them pass. You'll always give them the seat. Right? And these things don't come naturally. You are conditioned that way. You're taught that way. So even today, whether you go to a hotel or you are in the aircraft, there's a lady, you'll always address her as a ma'am. Unless you get pally with them and call them by name, right? But you'll always address them as ma'am, and that gives a very different kind of an experience for them as well. They respect you more, right? So I think it comes by, and so it's not of your own accord, but it's a conditioning that you've gone through, right? It's the training that you've gone through. I'll use the word again. It's the metamorphosis that you've gone through. So I know I was not like this. Right. Nobody knows that part.
Okay, Colonel, I have a very definite question for you here, because you're somebody who supports children, and you've taken it as a life mission in terms of supporting both professionals and children who are looking for career options, and that's something that you've been doing. And I know that there are still a lot of questions that people have, and we have quite a lot of people watching this as well as will be live there. So in case any of them want to have a career counseling with you in terms of the armed forces and continue a discussion forward, is there an option that they can connect with you on that? Is there a way they can connect you and reach out to you on that also?
Yeah, we could definitely. I would actually recommend for those of them who are thinking of wanting to join Army, but they are not very sure, a career counseling is definite, because it will, through the various assessment tools that we have, psychometric tools, it will say whether you are actually suitable for it or not. Because
are you really cut for it or not?
Are you really? Do you have it in you? That was the other tagline which came for the armed forces. Do you have it in you? You need a type of personality. You need a kind of value systems which drive you when you're there. Later, when you go there, when somebody gives you an order and asks you not to question it, if you are not built for that, you will question it. And that will not help you grow in the Army as a carrier. See, you can't keep questioning, right? There are certain things which you just land up doing just because it is being told. Now, some of us may not like it. Okay, so why should you get into it knowingly that this is what? So yes, a career counseling session, you could, for those of you at the end of it, you could share my contact details if they are looking for.
So if you can just put up your email ID or website or something where they can reach out to you.
I'll type it out in the chat.
Not the mobile number, I wouldn't advise, but at least an email ID or a website where they can probably put it on the chat, and then they can reach out to you later.
Definitely. Now, the other thing which I feel is the preparation, like I said, for the armed forces, everyone, the family needs to be bought into it. It's not the parents want the child to go and the child doesn't want to go, or vice versa. The child wants to go and the parents say no. Unless they are bought into it, it may not be the right, because they need support when they are young, when they are newly married. They are going into a field posting and the parents have to look after the family. Those small things is when you're bought into it totally. Otherwise, it would just stop. I think it is.
They need the support in terms of, you're saying, the entire ecosystem in terms of the support.
Because the family also enjoys it later. They come when you are, in a good station. Your parents land up, your siblings land up. They enjoy. Once you come, the actual regiment sometimes even hosts parties for them because somebody's family has come. Those kind of things.
Got it.
I've sent my mail ID on this. Yeah.
Yes. So I think that's where we are. I'm sorry, we apologize. Overshot the time by almost 15 minutes. I know there are some questions that are still not answered completely. We tried answering most of them, and I'm still getting requests, personal, this thing that we should continue one more session on this, George. So we'll think over it separately. Okay. So there are a couple of questions. I think this is a basic, simple answer, George. If you can just take it. How do you apply for NDA? So that's a question that has come up there. So.
Col Srinivasan did mention that every year, twice the applications are called for, right? Twice the applications are called for, and you need to respond to those applications. It's all online now. Fill up and give your admit card, everything comes, the tests are conducted, go attend the test, and the rest of the process is the same.
Okay. So watch out for the questions being there, and
one more question that has come to me. It is a funny question. Also, sir, I'm not an NCC entry, but is there any option to directly attend the SSB without writing the exam?
No.
No.
I know the answer now. I know the answer. No. Okay.
The thing which is also keep a track of newspapers. If you're preparing for an NDA, you should be reading newspapers for your GK. In the newspaper, UPSC always puts up advertisements for NDA and combined defense services.
I would also
coming
like
on
to
to the
add,
last question.
Manoj,
George. Yes.
Just one more point, just to substantiate that. I mean, all those who are keen, they could go on to the respective website of the armed forces. So join indianarmy.nic, Air Force has its own site, Navy also has its own site, and they keep publishing all formats of entry. All formats of entry, even if it's for the JAG branch, technical branch, education branch, it all keeps coming up there. That's another way you could keep a tag on. I'll take the last question now.
Okay. Colonel has put it up there also. Colonel has also put up his email ID. So in case any of you want to reach out to Colonel for a specific advice on the career part, that's something that can be done. One last question to both George and Colonel. George, I'll start with you. What is that one advice you will give to a child who's looking for a career in the armed forces? What is that one advice that you want to give?
Know your why. Right? I think that is very important because, as I said, for me, that was so important at each juncture, right from the training period and when you are into the service too. So that just like it happens in the corporate job too, there are often times when you get frustrated, right? But if your why is clear, why I want to do this, right? And if that is clear and you're confident on that, so that becomes your mission purpose. That defines your mission purpose and whether you want to do it or not. And what can you give to get there, right? And getting that why is very, very important. I mean, I think if not at the 9th standard, 14, 15 years, at least by the time you are about to get in. And even after having qualified your SSB, if the why is not clear to you, then I would say, don't take a chance.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I understand your why. Colonel?
I wouldn't have said anything different than this. It is a very aspirational career, very aspirational. And you have to volunteer. First, decide whether you really want to, because nobody is going to say, please come and join the army. Okay. You need to know why I want to join the army. Is it patriotism? It is money? Is it the glamour which you think is available there? Or do you really feel that you can contribute to society in general? Believe me, people don't realize there are troops in the border right now because of whom you and I are really relaxed here in Bangalore. There is someone protecting the border. There are operations going in Kashmir. There are operations going in Northeast. There are people, saving lives somewhere in Uttarakhand or Bhuj. All these are part of your job, your career. Are you willing to give this? If you are willing to give this, you've got something like that in your mind, believe me, this is the place to be. If you feel, okay, I think I can't stretch myself so much, it's perfectly fine. This is not the only career in the world either. But in the end, you do feel proud even after 37 years. I got commissioned, it was 38 years. And somebody calls me to talk about services and I've got still the same kind of energy and enthusiasm about the service. I think that is what shows. You should have.
So the why factor is the most important factor, as they said. Thank you so much, Colonel Srinivasan and Captain George, for accepting the invite from BSEI and the School of Public Speaking. This is another panel discussion that we brought together because I think this is the need of an hour just to kind of clarify and bust some of the myths and then kind of give some bit of a light in front of people who are actually looking for it. So I think it was useful to the people who are here and also going to be useful for the people who are going to watch us later on Facebook and the various other platforms that this is being streamed live on. So on behalf of BSEI, School of Public Speaking, and all the members who are watching from Bangalore Schools Group and other groups, thank you so much, Colonel and George, for being here. Thank you so much. We take a break here, we take leave here, and we will come back with another panel discussion, another interesting topic very soon. As I mentioned, the Colonel's details are there in the chat box. I'm putting my website also there. just in case any of you want to reach out to us, please feel free to do that. Thank you so much. Take care. Have a nice weekend. Thank you, George.
Thank you, Manoj.
Thank you, Manoj, for a fantabulous step. Thank you, George. Great meeting you again. Bye-bye.
George and Colonel, if you can just hang around for a couple of minutes, we will say bye to the those who joined us here. Thank you so much for it. Quite a lot of messages coming in. I'm closing the recording and the live screen